Welcome to the Pixelberry Choices podcast, and today we're going to be talking about Chapter 8 and Chapter 9 of Crimes of Passion, Book 2. This is getting really interesting. When I first started talking about it, the early chapters, they were good, but the build up right now, all the siblings we know it's one of the siblings. Choices have narrowed it down when they wrote that insider or that writer blog for Crimes of Passion 2. But even though we know the people, we know the names, it's so hard to narrow it down to just one person. And we know there are two persons involved in this, one who killed it and one who was pulling all the strings from behind. One who was being called or addressed as Your Majesty. So things are getting really interesting over here. So in the last chapter, we see that we overheard Casper and Amika talk about that Casper stole something from the murder scene of Nadia. And now we have this little conversation with Tristan at the start of chapter 8. And Tristan says that Casper has sticky hands, he can steal and stuff, but killing someone is not right up his alley. It could be up Amika's alley because, well, when something threatens the other's twin can really be violent and could kill even to save the other. So they have a really good bonding. So we go to confront the siblings, confront the twins. And one other note before I continue with this, and that is, you know how we're talking about the hookup scenes and steamy scenes throughout the first 7 chapters. In the next 2 chapters, 8th chapter, 9th chapter, we barely see any hookup scenes, any steamy scenes. There are heart-to-hearts between Tristan and main character. So I think what is happening right now is too much emotional. A lot of Juliana is brought up, so it would have been really weird if we had like a steamy scene or hookup scene right now. So, but the writers also wanted to give the readers some steamy scenes, so they sort of placed it way ahead. And now I think we're gonna get into the meat of the story, full on plot, no steamy, no nothing. So let's go. But again, Tristan mom sweeps in and she takes Tristan away, Queen Victoria, and for her duties. So we get separated, but we use this time, we go to Margaret and we see Luke and Ruby were helping Margaret with her fashion show. We have this conversation that this is the first ever show since Juliana's death, because on the day Juliana died there was a fashion show. Margaret was angry on Tristan because Tristan sneaked out with with Juliana. We learn all these details. I can't even speak, I'm so excited. But we learn all these details. And one thing, we will see some interesting facts about that in bold letters. Now, I don't know, because a lot of people are saying, what if Margaret is the killer? And we will learn in this chapter that Margaret was just 16 at the time when Juliana died. So I don't know if it's a teenager's job. Well, we did have April, a teenage killer in Murdered Homecoming book, but I'm not quite sure about Margaret because we have not suspected Margaret ever. And we don't know what the motive could be. So we just have this conversation and we can get some intel on Emika and Casper, the dossier. So it's a diamond scene and we will learn that Magpie, the code name, they talk in their own language that is yet to be deciphered. And then it's really hard to decipher that what they say in that language, but we can use it against them. So later we go to confront Casper and Amika. They're doing their own thing. We ask them what they were doing, and Amika says that they were doing like a Twitter reply and they're bullying someone because they've made bullying others' careers as their hobby or career. So they say that Casper was also helping her tweet from another phone, but he was pretending that he was indeed Amika. But then we use some information and we lure Casper right into our trap, and we make Amika believe that what Casper did is wrong. If Casper didn't kill Nadja but was on the murder scene and stole something from there, we could save Casper if they speak the truth, or otherwise it would make Casper look guilty. So then Casper runs away through the secret walls, and actually Mika helps when we make our case. So if you take the diamond scenes, that'll be a little too easier. And then we finally follow and we catch Casper, and Casper finally accepts the truth that yes, he says that he did steal something. And all this conversation, how he was saying that the murder scene was an artistic scene. So it really was well written because it shows like how twisted and weird of a country Dracovia is, and how twisted of a character Casper is, because he sounded like a psychopath, a total psychopath. Like, we were like disgusted at this, like what the guy's even saying, but we actually recover from him the murder weapon. So Nadia was strangulated, and that was the reason of the murder at her neck. So we find that thingy, and then we asked that if he had seen anything. He was of not much help, but they did mention something, that Juliana had another relationship with another Thorn before she got into a relationship with Tristan, and that was a bombshell. And the next chapter, chapter 9, we start. So we have to know who this person was. So Tristan gets super angry and emotional at the same time. And then they don't say anything specific, but they say the letters that were presented in the court. Someone who was really controlling and abusive partner. It was not Tristan, but the letter was to another Thorn, who was definitely someone she met before Tristan. So we need to know who that is, and the siblings don't help much because they have burned the letters, so we don't get anything from there. And we also learned that anyone could have access to that furnace because they burned the letters in the furnace, and they're weird siblings. They're weird twins. And then we strategize what we can do. Tristan has really broken down that Juliana had never told anything that she was on a relationship with another Thorn. So she's a little bit devastated, and she goes to talk with Margaret, but Margaret can't say anything. But again, we see some bold lines when we talk with Margaret. Like, I don't know, like, could it mean that Margaret could have had something to do with it? I really said before that I think Margaret could be the killer because she's the one who is flying under the radar. We're never suspecting her. She's always helping us. She's been helping us since book 1. She's always following Tristan. But now her age is what really bothers me to present my theory. Her age at that time. But anyway, so, and she also has the less motive if you look at this from this perspective. But I'll break it down at the end of the video. All right. So yeah. Then we make this plan that we have to talk with Tristan's Juliana's mothers, but we are not on a good term. So we have to go there for a tea, and Tristan is now the crown princess, so they won't be able to reject Tristan, and they're also progressive. So we dress up as usual. We play the choices game. We go there, and we have to be really careful with our detective skills so we can learn some information about Juliana. And there we learn that Juliana actually was a quite career-focused girl who always focused on changing the society, on herself. So it really reminds me of how investigated back in the book, The Unexpected Heirs. So Juliana and Amelia, I see quite some similarity there. And then we also thought she had an affair. Remember Amelia? Yeah, if you guys followed The Unexpected Heirs. So yeah. And then we can, in a dimension, play a game of a croquet or something. I can't quite remember. So it's sort of like a golf, or like I don't know, like something of that sort, as I understood. So Tristan will pair up with one of the grumpy mothers of Juliana, and we'll pair up with the other one. And we can really bond, and we can see the tension easing away from Tristan's body. And finally, what was a bad ending in relationship between Tristan and Juliana's mothers after Juliana's death, I think if we play this chapter, we see some sort of mutual understanding they reach. And if we specifically take the diamond scenes, we'll see that Tristan will earn forgiveness, and they will say that they even didn't believe themselves that Tristan could kill Juliana. And finally, the other mother, the more sensible one, I think it was I forgot her name, Elsie or Noemi, yeah. So she says that while we're here, and we then can tell the truth, that maybe Juliana had an affair, and then we'll get the permission to check Juliana's room, and this mother won't tell the emotional one anything about that. So it would look like an innocent trip to Juliana's room to gather some memories for one last time, to say a proper goodbye to Juliana from Tristan's side. So we go to Juliana's room, we see the paintings and everything, and we see that she was really a happy woman. And then we talk and we investigate other things, and finally, right at the end of chapter 9, we see a letter where it was mentioned probably Juliana knew that one of the Thorns was Victoria's bastard child, meaning this particular child didn't have the blood of Max Kim, the father, the king. So an illegitimate child of Queen Victoria. And this, remember, in the bonus scene of book one, right at the end, someone who's in the call said the past should remain in the past, buried with Juliana. So no, it was not probably about the about the throne. It was not about the heir of legitimacy act. It was not about the affair. Maybe now we're seeing that it could have been about what Juliana knew. Juliana knew who was this bastard child, or like that would have been damaging. That would have put Queen Victoria at a place of jeopardy. Would have put this particular child of Queen Victoria, who is not the king's child, this would have been so messed up. So let me know, guys, your theories in the comments below. So first thing I was thinking, what if Tristan is the one who is not the king's child? Because think about it, if you choose Tristan's gender, you can only change the mother's gender but not the king's gender. Like, king is always black no matter what Tristan you're choosing. Let that sink in. So what if we were looking at it all the wrong way? What if the true intentions of the murderers were never to frame Tristan, but to save Tristan, or so that Tristan doesn't get kicked out of the line of succession, or doesn't get kicked out of the throne battle, or worse, even Tristan could have been executed if it would have come to light, or something worse. So what if someone was trying to save Tristan all the while? So that could be one thing. So in that case, your majesty, like, someone killed Juliana and they called this person who was on the other side, and they were addressed as your majesty. So it could have been the Queen Victoria and someone else. Or it could also mean, okay, if this scenario were to be true, then who I think could be the killer? Margaret, who was really affected to Tristan and always wanted the best for Tristan. Maybe we're looking at this all the while from the wrong angle. Maybe the killer killed because they wanted to protect Tristan in other ways, but I don't think that's possible. I think maybe the king did this so that they can bury this family, sort of like a family dirty business, dirty laundry. He can bury it underground. And if Tristan is the bastard one, then he wanted to frame Tristan, so Tristan will be kicked out of the line of succession, and Lydia will be the next in line. Or maybe something else, like Vasily. Where does he stand? So I was thinking who could be the killer. Now I don't know what the motive could have been. So there's a lot of things. So Vasily, he's always been nice. It's been 9th chapter. We're 9 chapters in, and we haven't seen much of Vasily. We haven't suspected Vasily much. And if I think back to It Lives, I think back to Veil of Secrets, I think back to, you name it, The Unexpected Heiress, or Murder Homecoming, the character we least suspected until the halfway mark of the book, they are the ones that are really the bad guys. We find out them to be the bad guys right at the end of the book. So Vasily is there. We haven't had much, information on Astrid or Patrick. Patrick is all like, there's always a lot of questions here, so it's getting really interesting. I think choices are playing the cards close to their heart. They know there's not a much. So you see, chapters are not that big. They're not that interesting. Like, only one small thing happens, but they make it into a big thing, because they also know, choices know, that they don't have a big of a mystery here. Okay, they have narrowed it down to the siblings, or maybe the king, queen, or someone in the royal family, but it's not that big of a book. There's not much of a plot, but they're still squeezing the best out of it in each chapter. So I gotta give it to Choice. It's really good. So let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, peace out.